children.
Hit me! Let's put a smile on that face.
All I have to do is sit here and watch as the world will consume you.
Our priority is to get the Iron Man weapon turned over to the United States of America.
I am Iron Man. The suit and I are one.
Contrary to popular belief, I know exactly what I'm doing.
What I saw you do to Tony Stark on that track, wow. You need my resources. I want to make Iron Man look like an antique.
This whole lone gunslinger act's unnecessary. You don't have to do this alone.
I hope you're ready.
Come on!
Mr. Stark displays textbook narcissism. Agreed?
Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and welcome to this week's movie review of Iron Man 2, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Sam Rockwell, Mickey Rourke, Don Cheadle, Scarlett Johansson, and Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson. After much labor and hype, the biggest film of this summer has finally hit theaters. But has Iron Man 2 hit the mark with this flick, or missed it by a mile away? Well, let's see. Iron Man 2 picks up exactly where the last film left off, with Tony Stark revealing to the world of his superhero identity. From there we meet our antagonist, Ivan Vankoff, also known as Whiplash, who wants to take revenge upon Tony Stark and his legacy over a fallout with both parties' families during the 70s. On top of this emerging danger comes pressure from the government and rival industrialist Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell, who wants Stark to turn over the Iron Man technology so they can weaponize it and use it for military purposes, while S.H.I.E.L.D. puts further pressure on Stark to join the Avengers Initiative. That's quite the story to follow, not counting Tony Stark's inner battles and relationship problems with Pepper Potts. This is where the film may not strike a chord with people, given that there will be many complaints about the film having too many characters and subplots going on in the movie at the same time. This is also akin to what I like to call the Batman syndrome from its original franchise, where there would be many characters or aspects crammed into one film. For example, in Batman Returns, Batman had Penguin, Catwoman, and Maximilian Schreck as the villains, and that's not counting the rest of the movie, but critics didn't seem to complain about that flick, so I'll never really understand why having multiple plots in a movie is such a hard thing to get these days, when it wasn't over 10 years ago. Nonetheless, such a thing is nothing to worry about if you have a functioning brain, because it's fairly simple to follow, and if you read the comic books, then there shouldn't be any issues whatsoever. Now, if you've seen the first Iron Man film, then you'll know that a lot of labor and love went into this film to not only make it a good summer epic, but an excellent comic book adaptation as well. I mean, Jon Favreau even opened up online forums and chats for fans to make suggestions for the first film so he can better it, so we know that we're dealing with someone who not only knows his stuff, but truly loves and respects the franchise and Iron Man, so it's no exception here with this film. Just like in the first film, Robert Downey Jr. plays Tony Stark with perfection, as he embodies the character and all of his traits to a perfect T. The rest of the cast is also excellent, as it's one Cate Blanchett short of a complete Oscar-worthy cast.
Come on!
Gwyneth Paltrow returns to play Tony Stark's love interest and bigger partner Pepper Potts, and while her performance is strong, it does suffer a bit from the fact that she has less to do in this film. The love tension she had in the first film is underplayed, and she is never in any danger till the climax of the film, and even then there's no sense that she's truly in any real danger, but with those minor complaints she still remains a strong aspect of the film. We also have Mickey Rourke playing Whiplash. Now I'm a little bit on the fence when it comes to him in this film. I enjoyed Rourke's performance in the film as it was strong and he did make the character interesting, but he was a bit underutilized in the film.
You come from a family of thieves and butchers. And now, like all guilty men, you try to rewrite your own history. And you forget all the lives the Stark family has destroyed.
Speaking of thieves, where did you get this design?
My father, Anton Uncle.
I never heard of him.
My father is the reason you're alive.
The reason I'm alive is because you had a shot, you took it, you missed.
Did I?
His situation in the film reminds me a bit of Cillian Murphy's case with Scarecrow in Batman Begins. He was great in the film and very interesting, but never used to his full potential, which made fans and audience members feel a bit ripped off by the end. While it's not the exact case here, it did feel like it was almost the same case with Whiplash in this film. Now my absolute favorite performance goes to Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer. Not only did he give a character with next to nothing to work with a lot of depth and interest, but he did it with a constantly strong performance. I mean, I loved his interactions with every character, his frustration when he didn't get what he wanted, his comedic timing, and his portrayal of a slimy, creepy nerd. He basically took nothing and turned it into gold. The rest of the cast is solid, with not one single weak performance, although Samuel L. Jackson did feel like he was phoning in his at times, but maybe that's just me. In terms of the comic book, the movie keeps in spirit with it in full force. The Demon in the Bottle storyline, which addresses Tony Stark's alcoholism, is used as a drive-in point in the movie, which is slowly foreshadowed at the start of the movie, and hits its climax during the middle of the film in a brawl with Rhodey during a party. Now, while the Demon in the Bottle storyline is present in the film, it's not fully put to use, and could have been done better, but cutting it down was a wise choice since Tony didn't need more development time, and it would have resulted in the film dragging on. I did, however, take some issue with War Machine's origins as he just got into the suit for the first time and was able to pilot it with no problems. Isn't this some of the most sophisticated technology in the world? If so, how can he pilot it with no experience whatsoever? That's a bit of a plot hole, but aside from that, everything else works smoothly fine with him. Now, let's touch upon Don Cheadle since we're talking about War Machine here. While Don Cheadle is good in the role and interacts well with the cast, he does tend to feel a bit forced or crammed into the movie. Now, this isn't his fault, as it feels forced due to the fact that it's a different actor playing the character. It's a drastic change, and it doesn't help that the character's origin started with Terrence Howard, since we learn to like him and stick with him as opposed to someone else who we have to learn to like. Plus, for me, I honestly like Terrence Howard in the movie better, which is nothing against Don Cheadle, since he was strong in the movie despite feeling a bit forced. Another character that feels a bit forced is Black Widow. She could have been taken out of the movie and it would have been the same, or better, because more time could have been spent on developing Whiplash instead of introducing her. I also didn't like the fact that she didn't have a Russian accent, given that she is a Russian spy working for S.H.I.E.L.D., who has always had the accent in everything that she's in, but those are my only complaints. Scarlett Johansson has the look, feel, and presence of the character down. Some folks complain that she is never addressed as Black Widow in the film, which I find to be a bit dumb since you don't need the film to hold your hand and tell you the obvious. Do you need someone to point at Batman on a rooftop to know it's him? Do you need a bunch of people to scream Spider-Man and point while he web swings to know that it's Spider-Man? No. So such complaints are dumb, since the movie is made for fans, and the majority should know who all the key players are from the get-go. With the cast out of the way, I can say that the film remains strong in almost every aspect. All the fight sequences and the use of CGI that needed improvement from the first film were addressed, as everything in the film is shot clearly. The writing is just as strong, and while some people say that the film tends to drag on towards the middle, I felt that the dialogue saved it with its funny humor and banter. Pacing is also solid with no real slow points, but there are bumps in the road in regards to the script if you're a person who needs the constant stimulation of action. The climax of the film is also improved as it's longer and shot better than before, but it does tend to suffer a bit. Now, while it's generally done better in mostly every way, this film lacks the sense of tension and dread from the first film. In the fight between Iron Man and Ironmonger, we felt the tension of the situation and as if someone was going to die or seriously be injured, including Tony Stark. And this time around, he doesn't even get a scratch. And that overwhelming sense of danger is gone since you don't feel like anyone is ever in any risk of danger, which took away from the final fight of the film. Also, while I love the humor in the movie, I did have a big issue with some of the scenes after the party. Tony is eating a donut inside of a big donut when he is approached by Nick Fury. Now, I have no problem with that scene since I could see the humor in it, but it's what follows afterwards that kills me. Tony, while wearing the Iron Man suit, is in a shop talking to one of the most powerful men on Earth with Black Widow as her true identity is lazily revealed. The way the scene is shot is as if the people have no importance or as if they're in a top secret place with no risk of being in any sort of danger. It was just too silly and killed the scene. But aside from that, the rest of the film is very strong and one of the better comic book movies to come out. Yes, it does suffer a bit here and there because it lacks the originality of the first film and keeping you on the edge with a constant introduction to new things, but very few sequels manage to continue carrying on such interest, so the film can't really be attacked for that. I mean, the only two films I can think of that continue to introduce new stuff the second time around, as well as carrying a constant sense of engagement, was Spider-Man 2 and The Dark Knight, so this is a rare and hard thing to pull off, but don't let it push you away from this film, because if so, you'll be losing on one hell of a good time. Iron Man 2 gets a 9 out of 10.